Hello everybody, I'm DiffeRant Jeff, and I just wanted to take a little time to give you an honest review of Prince Harry's book Spare, and also relate myself to it just a little bit. So please like, comment, and subscribe, and check out some of the parodies. I'll be parodying the book Spare, as well as all sorts of other stuff like Sister Wives and tons of things. I got over 1,000 videos. So a great subscriber and supporter of mine, Ramona, suggested that I check out the book Spare, and I'm so glad she suggested it. Right off the top, I will say I really enjoyed the book. And I don't know a whole lot about the royal family. I've always been a fan of the royal family as an American. I think they're just awesome. I think it's a cool thing. It's beautiful. You know, Prince William, Princess Catherine, the Queen, you know, everything, you know, Princess Diana when I was younger, and Prince Charles was always, I didn't really quite understand him that much, but we'll just say that all the royals seem really cool to me. And so I had no preconceived negative feelings or anything. I thought Harry seemed like a good guy. Every Prince Harry, they all seem cool to me. So I didn't go into this with any negativity or hate or judgment, really. Although I am parodying Meghan's show. So I guess I had some voices in my head about, you know, I wonder what this whole relationship is about. But I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the book. I recommend it. And I recommend you doing the audiobooks so you can actually hear Harry's voice. It brought up some thoughts for me, though. Just a quick aside. Of course, I'm not royalty, but I kind of can relate with being a spare. Without going into any great personal details, out of respect for my family, I can just say that I actually learned something about myself from reading this book. I do think I am a bit of a spare, and I'm not going to go into lengths about it, but I know what it feels like to be the second son, and there are relationship dynamics that I witnessed in hearing this book that I could relate to. So for my money, I think Harry seems like a good guy. It brings up the point of what is truth anymore in this world. I get too deep about it, but who do you believe? I don't know if Prince William made his own version of the book, of a book where he narrates it. If he did, I will definitely dive in and check that out. Please post in the comments if he did that. I kind of suspect he maybe wouldn't do that, because he seems a little bit more buttoned up. And I've always felt like I was the one who was totally unbuttoned. So in a way, I relate to Harry in that sense as well. You know, sometimes you say too much, sometimes, you know, so... but I will just say there's a lot of things that Harry said in the book that make you feel really bad for him. Really bad for him. I mean, for not even getting into the whole paparazzi thing or the paps, just the way he was treated in the family as a young boy. You know, it was pretty sad. You know, there's things like Harry's father and brother couldn't be on the train or on a plane together because if something were to happen to them, God forbid, then Harry would be... It's just imagine what that would do to your psyche as a young boy, knowing that like the whole system was set up to prevent you from you rising to power or you becoming the king one day. I mean, that's crazy stuff. And if you're just a little boy and you grow up with that surrounding you, let alone what he went through, you know, with his mother and with the paparazzi always hounding them. I mean, they had to be these perfect little soldiers as little boys. And again, they didn't choose that life. They were born into it. So I have a lot of sympathy, and I did learn a lot about what Harry went through. And even to greater extent in the book, he details, it sounds like his relationship with his brother was not very nice. In fact, there's all sorts of things that Harry says, if you take it as fact, I don't know if it was all true. You know, that's what I go back to the thing about truth. There's one person's truth and there's another person's truth. And I'm assuming something in the middle is probably the real truth. But I just wish you could just believe people and say, this is what he said is true. And I really wish, whether it goes to the news, to politicians, to history books, what can you believe? Who wrote that history book? Did that history book have bias? Now I don't even know if I could trust the history I learned as a kid. Not that I studied it very hard because I was pretty bad at that crap. But it's really like, find me unbiased sources and I will kiss your feet. If you can find me, I walk the middle. This is not to get too much into my perspective, but I really always try to walk the middle, whether it's, you know, politics or whatever. I try to see everyone's side. So when I read this book, I did try to take Harry's perspective and William's perspective, as well as Meghan and Catherine and other people's, even Prince Charles's perspective. But it seemed like, you know, Prince Harry's father and brother were pretty strange to him at some times. Like William didn't even want to know him when they went away to school, and he said, don't talk to me, I don't want to even know you. And it's just stuff like that. It's just brutal. So, you know, taking things at face value, I really felt for Harry. But on the flip side of it, Harry seemed very comfortable admitting that he was always involved with drinking and partying and becoming kind of like a petulant drunk where he even said in some, trying to start fist fights with his own bodyguards out in the street at night and smoking pot, always talking about smoking pot. There was mentions of doing cocaine, doing hallucinogenic drugs. I'm not that I judge, a young kid for experimenting, but it seems like even in the very last bit of the book, spoiler, Harry, I think it was the last chapter of the book, Harry says he's on the balcony thinking about all these wonderful things. He sees a hummingbird that could have been a representation of his grandmother, and he just smokes a spliff. It's just like, as someone who's recovered from addiction myself, I find that to be a little bit disheartening, where if you're a royal, I do think you are to be held to a higher standard. So there's some things that didn't quite add up about Harry's behavior in his life. He's such a victim. He was always, targeted and treated unfairly. But then on the other side, it seems like he was pretty wild. And so I'm not to say he deserved it, but I don't know. It's just tough to sort through it all. I enjoyed the book. I kind of wish that, he didn't still, talk openly about smoking spliffs and stuff like that. He has a lot of stuff to deal with, very serious stuff, and kids. I don't think grown-ups with kids should be doing that stuff. That's just my personal opinion. Don't come at me. We're all entitled to our opinions. So, and as far as the relationship with Meghan, I will say it appears without a shadow of a doubt that Harry is madly in love with Meghan. And so that's great. And so that makes me feel for him even more. And one other thing I do want to touch on, that again, I think this is a fact. This is not something that can be disputed, that there was insane racism targeting Meghan with like some of the headlines in the press. There was like hundreds of things that, I'm not going to say them, but really weak racist things that they said about her. I don't have really a fully formed opinion of Meghan. I don't know these people. If you watch her show, she seems nice. And if you look at her from what the media says about her, you could say that maybe she's, pulling the strings and a little manipulative and power hungry and, seeking fame. But I can't really blame someone for seeking fame. Hello. But I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know enough about these people to say, yeah, this person seems like they're bad. So I'm not even going to go there. But I will say, the fact that Harry fell in love with Meghan after seeing an Instagram post where she had one of those like doggy filters where her tongue was wagging out. Those filters, you've probably seen those stupid filters that the young girls will wear put on them, where the tongue's hanging out and their ears are hanging, and it's like he fell in love off of seeing a picture of her like that. That just kind of like makes me laugh. It's like, oh my gosh, what type of world do we live in? It's so silly. But it does seem like he really madly loves her. You could wonder if maybe Meghan's was in it for being in the royal family. It's possible, knowing that she's an actress and seeking greater, when you're an actor, you seek greater notoriety, so you have that security, so people will want to work with you. You can't totally blame someone. So yeah, you want to have a big starring role in a thing. Yeah, you want to get a big interview. You want people to talk about you so that you're sought after for work. So I don't know Meghan. I don't want to get into bad mouthing her or anybody in the family too much. I'm just responding on what I heard in the book. But it's a possibility. You could say that Meghan's interest in Harry could have been a little questionable in the beginning, but I don't know. You just want to believe that it's true love, and I believe in love. I'm a romantic, and so I guess that's pretty much it. I don't need to go into any more lengths. It's already long enough. I recommend the book. I thought it was cool. I feel like Harry would be a cool guy to hang out with, and he seemed to me like a pretty stand-up guy. And but then again, he made it. I really felt for him, and if the things that he says is straight up true regarding his his brother and father, and how they wouldn't stand up for him with the press and all this stuff, and then he got cut out of the family at the end. It was just brutal the way they did that. I thought that I felt that in a personal way, the way the folder was handed to him of like, okay, we're choosing option 5, you're cut off, no security. That actually gave me anxiety when I was listening to the final chapter. I was like, oh my gosh, one of the final chapters, that hurt me. That I don't think he's a bad person. He deserved to be. I mean, the fact that he wanted to step away from the family, that's going to have repercussions. I get it. My microphone fell off twice now, and that never happens. So that's probably the universe telling me to shut my mouth, that I'm going a little too long or getting too deep. But anyway, I just, stepping away from the royal family is going to have repercussions, and wanting to have a life that's like, free from all that. I get it. But the way they were attacked from the press, you can't really argue that they were treated fairly. You can't argue that they were treated fairly, because the press and the media and those shock magazines, those are not you can't defend those. You can't defend. You can defend enjoying to read them, but you can't defend that these things are in the way the paparazzi followed them around, and it was brutal. Some of that was pretty brutal. All right, I'm just rambling now. So I recommend the book, and please check my channel out. I'm doing all sorts of parodies. I've done, I think, 5 spare parodies where I'm just Harry in the recording studio reading the book, and in my interpretation, my absurd parody of it. And I'd love for you guys to check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great day. We're done here. Yes.